Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is, of course, Wednesday, March the 25th, 2026. As of course, we're going to give people a chance to come in before we get started. Friendly reminder, as always, of course, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, we did watch some interesting cartoons today, including a real sweet one from, distributed Paramount in May of 1947, The Enchanted Square. That was a Raggedy Ann cartoon, Raggedy Ann novel tune, as it were, in which she basically helped a blind girl open her eyes through her imagination. So it's kind of a very sweet cartoon. Um, of course, starring the voices of Jackson Beck, Gwen Davies, Cecil Roy, and Joyce Terry. Joyce Terry is Raggedy Ann, of course. Um, Jackson Beck as Officer Flanagan. Cecil Roy as the voice of Billy, the little blind girl, who of course also did the voice of Little Lulu in the Little Lulu cartoons, as well as one of the first voices of Casper as well, and then of course Gwen Davies providing the voice of Billy's mother in the short. So, anyways, so as I said, we're just waiting for more people to show up. They, of course, saw the last of Cecil Turtle's appearances in the Golden Age, Rabbit Transit. This time he had a jet-powered shell to try to help him beat bugs. In their like trilogy of Tortoise versus Hare, right? Heckle and Jekyll tried to get into a mansion that was being guarded by a watchdog that was just not having any trespassers. Um, yeah, so some interesting stuff, and then of course, um, Red Hot Rangers watching George and Junior in the MGM cartoon, where George and Junior were forest rangers trying to stop a forest fire. Another Tex Avery set of characters there. All right, so we're past the 3 minute mark now, so I guess I'll talk about what's on tap today. So, of course, today, being Wednesday, being Hump Day, we're going to look at the latest article from Chris Braley and Bleeding Cool, or Bleeding is it Bleeding Cool or Bleeding Fool? I think what Bleeding Fool, Indie Comic Showcase number 318. So we're going to look at that. Then, of course, we'll get all caught up on all the latest in pro wrestling. Look back to last night's NXT. Look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite. And then wrap things up, of course, with this day in each history. So, with all that being said, one last friendly reminder before I continue on here. If you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With all that being said, let's get going here. Alrighty then. So here we go. So Indie Comic Showcase number 318, Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales and Merry Boys, article by Chris Braley, published today. So let's get into this. Welcome back to another installment of Indie Comic Showcase, the weekly blog where we signal boost a few truly independent comics that are currently crowdfunding their projects, crowdsourcing their funding in some way, or just completely self-publishing on their own. Every little bit of support for these creators matters, from a single dollar pledge to the $25 bundle. And of course, the higher tiers are usually fun too. Even if you can't back a campaign or buy a book, you can share or tweet about these projects to your friends and followers. Or even better yet, check out my show when I cover it as well, because I will usually share the links as well, try to help do my part to help out as well. All right, so on Indie Comic Showcase, we interview the creators, show off some art, and tell you how you can check out the project for yourself. Below, we have some outstanding crowdfunding campaigns this week for you to learn about, enjoy, and hopefully support by backing one or more of them. Thanks for checking these out, for being the best part of Indie Comics Showcase. Let's jump in. So first we got from Graham Nolan here, Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales number 2. Let's see. Let me go grab the link to that campaign. And there's a Fun My Comic campaign. This. And let me go, of course, do that on the my Rumble page as well. All right, so there's the first link we're gonna look at there, Giant Size. So for both my YouTube and my Rumble viewers, of course. So there's the link if you guys want to go check out the project. It's on Fun My Comic. So let's now, with that being done and said, let's go ahead and get into the article. Let's get into the articles here. Alrighty then. So, Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales #2 by Graham Nolan. And here's, of course, the cover right here. July 2026. $75. Whoa. 144 big pages. I mean, $75, that's kind of a hefty price for a comic book. Hey, Tojo. By Warbomb. Chris Braley. Welcome to Indie Comics Showcase. Graham, tell me the pitch for the latest volume of Giant Size Two-Fisted Manly Tales. Graham Nolan. It's a dangerous military gambit to bring down an empire. A World War II what if, quote unquote, tale brought to you by legendary creators Chuck Dixon and Butch Guice. Chris, tell me what led to Compass Comics publishing this story. Graham, kind of funny. GN Graham Nolan, also graphic novel. Chuck Dixon brought the property Storming Paradise to me, and it was a perfect fit for my Two-Fisted Manly Tales series. Chuck approached me with the project after the rights had been returned to him from Wildstorm. Let's see, Chris. Chuck Dixon and the late, great Butch Guice are legendary collaborators, and you shared a seminal run with Chuck on Batman back in the day. What made, quote-unquote, Storming Paradise concept the right fit for your Manly Tales brand? Graham, you don't get more, quote-unquote, toxic masculinity than quote, the greatest generation, unquote, that fought in World War II. I grew up with many of those men as friends and teachers. I thought I think they meant to type it, not is. There's a typo right there. It was a perfect match for the imprint. So again, some typos there. So let's see. Chris, our weekly Toxic Masculinity Tuesdays celebrate it as well. Can you tell me what the phrase means, or what the phrase means to you in this context? And how do you think readers are responding to that theme? Graham, quote unquote, toxic masculinity is the pejorative phrase used by liberals and feminists to describe men being men. Simple enough there. The idea for the first book came about because I was fed up with all the portrayals of men in media and commercials as goofballs, effeminate soy boys, quote unquote, and getting pushed around by girl bosses, quote unquote, and even their own kids. I wanted to tell stories of men of action, men of commitment, men as protectors, providers, and builders, men that stood for and defended their ideals no matter what the personal cost. The success of the first book prove there is an audience craving these types of stories. There's some more of the art right there. Chris, it looks like you moved your crowdfunding efforts from Indigo to Fund My Comic. What made that platform the better home for your projects moving forward? Graham, I chose Fund My Comic to launch this project for a couple of reasons. One, they don't gatekeep. I was concerned because of the Japanese symbols and symbolism and the basic premise of the story. Some knucklehead would complain to Indiegogo or Kickstarter that it's racist. Nothing could be further from the truth. And Indiegogo was recently sold and revamped their platform, making it much harder to create a campaign. I also like to support the little guys. Just giving you guys a chance to see some of the artwork here on display. And again, if you haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage, I'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Well, with that being said, of course, let's continue on here. So, Chris, with the book ready to go to print right after the campaign, what kind of experience can backers expect? Any special editions, behind the scenes, or extras that connect to many Manly Tales #1? Graham, this will be a deluxe hardcover, unlike the original trade that Wildstorm released. It will also contain bonus material seen here for the first time. And I do need to go off camera here for a quick moment. I'll be right back. Just gotta set something up for later. So just give me a second here. I'll put some music on while I'm gone. All right, I'm back. So let's get back to the article here, of course. All right, so so Chris, nice. Anything else you would like to share with our readers before we sign off? Graham, this is a 30-day campaign with no late pledges. The files are going to the printer as soon as the campaign ends, and we have our order numbers. Chris, looks great, Graham. Here's to a successful campaign. All right, so there we go with that one. Now let's see. Now we have Merry Boys all stitched up. Part 1 by Carl Stevens. So let me go grab the link to that. And this one's actually on Indiegogo. So it's kind of funny. They just mentioned Indiegogo. And oh, oops. Oh boy. Okay, hold on a sec, folks. I screwed up there. Hold on. Sorry about that. Kind of screwed up. Oh. That's kind of. Think what may have happened. Usually another tab pops up when I do the links there, but I think yeah, that's what happened. And it was instead of a separate tab for the site, so I just have to just have to return. I have to go back then. All right. Okay. All right. So apparently, hold on a sec, folks. So apparently, I've got to. All right. All right. So, anyways, I guess there was some little fidgety stuff going on there with the computer, but I think we've got it all cleared up now. Hopefully. All righty then. So, anyways, Merry Boys All Stitched Up, Part 1. Let me just. I don't know, that's Part 1 or Page 1. And I'll do that here as well. All right, so there we go. Here's the link to that title on the YouTube page, and here's the link to it on the Rumble page. So, anyways, now let's get into all that. So, Merry Boys All Stitched Up, P1, or I don't know, that's Page 1 or Part 1 by Carl Stephan. All right, so Chris Braley. Call for readers just hearing about Merry Boys All Stitched Up. What's the quick elevator pitch? How would you describe this new chapter in your series? Carl Stephan. This is a new adventure featuring the 4 teenage Knights Templar and their mentor, Father Michael Parrish. They are quadruplets born with a rare genetic condition that causes enlarged hands and feet, distorted facial features, and prevents sufferers from growing any body hair. Their condition also affects the way they metabolize alcohol. Drinking beer gives them almost superhuman strength and wow. Wow, okay. You have to almost wonder, though, if alcohol has some of its negative effects on people as well, on these guys as well. That would be something, though, if it gave them superhuman strength and endurance and all that, and also, basically made it to where they just were out of control. But anyways, this is part 1 of their first full-length adventure. So that's probably what it is then. Chris, that's such a unique concept. What originally inspired Merry Boys, and what made you decide to self-publish instead of going through a mainstream publisher? Carl, I wanted to make an antidote to modern comics, something unapologetically English and obnoxious. Okay? Self-publishing is the only way to do something like this without it getting watered down by some terrified editor. True enough. Chris, for people new to your work, who do you think this series will appeal to the most? What kind of readers do you have in mind? Carl, any readers with a healthy sense of humor would enjoy these books. If you like comics like Tank Girl, The Goon, and the first decade or so of 2000 AD, then you'll probably like this. 2000 AD is a comic that was published over in Britain by Fleetway UK, I recall, because we've kind of highlighted some of their issues before in the historical comic retrospect. It's basically been running since I think it's 1977 or so, and I think it still may still be going to this day. Chris, let's dig into your art style and storytelling. How would you describe your creative approach, and what influences shaped you? Carl, I'm a fan of artists like Will Eisner, Jack Davis, Jordi Bernay, Mick McMahon, and Wally Wood. Old school stuff, but with a new sensibility. I've been published by well-known indie publisher before and have published 3 volumes of Merry Boys comics prior to this, all self-contained stories up to now. What about your creative team this time around? Who's helping you bring the story to life? I write and draw the comics. Wilkes, my wife, helps with marketing and fulfillment. So that's what the Merry Boys look like. Yeah, that would probably turn some heads for the wrong reasons, of course, but I'm sure people's initial reactions would probably not be too kind here, to say the least. Sounds like a real family-driven effort, Chris. It sounds like a real family-driven effort. How far along is the book? What kind of production schedule are you working with? Carl, the comic is completely done, and we're ready to go to print as soon as the campaign ends. So rest easy, backers. So they're basically promising a pretty quick send out once the whole thing's done. Oh, got so enthralled with the artwork there that I forgot there was some more text to read. For the moment there, anyways. Hmm. Chris, as someone who's been doing this independently for a while, what have you learned from self-publishing and crowdfunding along the way? Carl, I'm DIY, and for those of you who don't know what that means do it yourself. All the way, and crowdfunding lets me keep control of the process. I love interacting with readers and hearing their feedback. Chris, you've built quite a following with Merry Boys. What's next after All Stitched Up? Can fans expect the story to continue? Hell yeah, Carl. Hell yes. I need to finish this series. Chris, before we wrap up, tell us a bit about the campaign itself. What kind of perks or special items can backers look forward to? Carl, on the campaign, I offer commissioned sketches, original art from the book, prints, and 2 variant covers. There is also a catch-up tier for those unfamiliar with the Merry Boys. Chris, awesome, Carl. Good luck with the campaign. We're rooting for you. That's it for this installment. If you're a creator ramping up your own campaign or have a comic available to purchase online, and you want to be featured in our weekly column, click here. So we can hopefully help you get more eyes on your crowdfunding comic project. Until next time, support indie comics. Alrighty then. So there we go, folks. That's it for tonight on the articles, and of course, so let's just go back real quick and just take a quick peek at the links. If you get, so that's for the first one, Giant Size 2, Fisted Manly Tales #2 from Compass Comics and Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon and the late great Butch Guice. And there's a link for the Rumble for my Rumble viewers. And then here's a link for Mary Boys All Stitched Up Part 1. And you guys can go check that out as well. All right, so now with that being said and done, of course, now we're going to move on to the wrestling wrap-up as we're coming up on 40 minutes. We're at like 38 and a half minutes here, so we're coming up on 40 minutes. So, let's look at the let me go ahead and get to the wrestling wrap up. As I said, we're going to look back to last night's NXT. Look ahead to tonight's AEW Dynamite. Let me just go find that. All right, so last night's Dynamite, or last night's NXT rather, coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, with Booker T and Big Joseph on commentary. The show opened up with a women's tag team match as the team of Ren QCC of Evolved Women, I believe, Evolved Women's Champion Kendall Gray and the recently new WWE Speed Champion Ren Sinclair, defeating Fatal Influence, former Speed Champion Fallon Henley and Laney Reed, with NXT Women's Champion JC Jane in their corner. It did lead to a confrontation between JC Jane and Lola Vice, who recently won a title down in AAA. And of course, the Speed Champion Ren Sinclair. There's like about 3 challengers that JC Jane may be looking forward to. I think Robert Stone announced a match coming up at the next NXT pay-per-view, Stand and Deliver, PLE. Then you had in 2 minutes 41 seconds, you had Kalani Jordan defeat Thea Hall. Post-match, as Jordan was trying to beat down Thea Hall, Jada Parker came out and made the save, fueling a potential match, setting up a potential match between those two coming up soon. Then, in a gauntlet match for the number one contendership gauntlet match for the WNXT North American title, Johnny Gargano with Candice LeRae in his corner and making his return to NXT, would defeat Charlie Dempsey of The Birthright, who of course had Ariana Grace, Channing Lorenzo, and Uriah Connors in his corner, Deion Lennox of Dark State, Jackson Drake of the Vanity Project, the current Evolved champion, and Shiloh Hill. Shiloh Hill would defeat Jackson Drake, Deion Lennox, before of course Charlie Dempsey would pin him, and then Johnny Gargano would get the pin on Dempsey. So, actually no, Shiloh Hill defeated all 3 before Dark State actually jumped in and beat up on Shiloh Hill, and then giving Gargano a chance to pin Shiloh Hill. And now, of course, Johnny Gargano will be challenging Miles Bourne for the NXT North American title. In a semifinal match for the number one contendership for the NXT tag team titles. Originally, it was supposed to be Eli Knight and Elio LaFleur, but they were attacked backstage and sent to the hospital before the show. So Los Americanos, Bravo and Rayo Americano, made their came in to NXT and defeated the Collings, Sean Spears, and Nico Vance, 10 minutes 11. And the main event saw Tony D'Angelo defeat Ricky Saints via DQ when Ethan Page, who was in Ricky Saints' corner, came in and interfered in the match. And then Joe Hendry came out and cleared out the ring of all three men. So that's all we got for the WWE, for the NXT. So now let's talk about what's going to be going on tonight's Dynamite. As soon as I grab that info. So on tonight's Dynamite, coming from the Roy Wilkins Auditorium in St. Paul, Minnesota on TBS, you will have, in a tag team battle, you'll have the conglomeration members of Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong taking on the Dogs duo of Clark Connors and David Finlay. Rush of Los Faction Ingobernables will be taking on Darby Allin in a singles match. Tekla will defend the women's world title against Mina Shirakawa, and in a match. And then main event is set to be Kenny Omega and Swerve Strickland. In the match, Swerve Strickland will be putting up his AEW World Title number one contendership against Kenny Omega's Executive Vice President position. So that's what's on the line to that. So that's what's be going down on Dynamite tonight. All right, so that's all we got for the wrestling wrap up. So now we'll start to, of course, wind down a bit here, as now we'll get with today being Wednesday, March 25th, 2025. Let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. So 2009, 2006, 1986, and 2011. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 40 years ago, and on this date, 40 years ago, back in 1986, American actress Gloria Blondell passed away at the age of 70 on this date back in 1986. She was the second voice of Daisy Duck. She provided she was the second actress to provide the voice Daisy Duck. Let me just see if I can get more of that information. Let's see. Gloria Blondell would provide Daisy's voice in 1948. Basically, I guess filling in for Ruth Clifford at times, who was the first actress to provide the voice of Ruth Clifford, or of Daisy Duck, from 1945 to 1950. Of course, Clarence Nash provided Daisy's voice in her very first appearance and Don Donald as Donna Duck. And then, of course, would make her debut as Daisy in Mr. Duck Steps Out. So, 40 years ago today, Gloria Blondell, American actress, the second actress to provide the voice of Daisy Duck on a regular basis, passed on at the age of 70. So now, moving on to the year 2006, so 20 years ago today, on this date, 20 years ago today, on this date, 20 years ago today, Ring of Honor held its fourth anniversary show from the Inman Sports Club in Edison, New Jersey. Of course, with Dave Prazak, Jimmy Bauer, and Lenny Leonard on commentary. The main event saw in a match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, Austin Aries and Roderick Strong defeated AJ Styles and Matt Sydal. Also saw Bryan Danielson retain the Ring of Honor World Championship over Jimmy Rave. Homicide defeated Colt Cabana in a ghetto street fight. Christopher Daniels and BJ Whitmer's match went to a no contest when wrestlers from Combat Zone Wrestling hit the ring. In a four-corner survival match, Adam Pearce defeated Claudio Castagnoli, Jay Fury, and Azrael. And the night opened up with the Briscoe brothers defeating Tony Mamaluke, Sal Rinauro, Jason Blade, and Kid Mikaze. So, and I don't know if that was a 2-on-4 match or if that was a triple threat tag match. They don't say here. I would say it looks like it was a 2-on-4 match. So, 4-on-2. So, so now moving on to the next piece of niche history, as we move ahead to the year 2009, which would be 17 years ago. On this date, 17 years ago today, in 2009, the 595th issue of Archie from Archie Comics went on sale on this date back in 2009. So for $2.50 for 32 pages. Of course, the featured stories included Home Insecurity, The Fall of Reggie, and Prom Preparation. And finally, moving ahead to the year 2011, 15 years ago today, on this date, 15 years ago today, the year 2011, Madhouse's Marvel anime Wolverine completed its run on Japanese television on this date in 2011. So on this date in the year 2011, Madhouse's Marvel anime Wolverine would complete its run on Japanese television on this date in the year 2011. All right, so with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. All right, so we got a few more minutes here. I'm trying to. So that's it. That's all we have for tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, we'll be back here with more niche news tomorrow. Of course, don't forget this Sunday I'll be joined by Terry from Mighty Geek Studios, and we'll be taking another trip down Comics History Lane. We'll be looking back at comics that went on sale in August 1940. We'll be looking at, of course, be looking at some comics. We'll be just taking a quick peek just an acknowledgement of the 20th issue of feature book from David McCabe Publications, and then we will be reading through Big Shot comics number 6, including, of course, Skyman, Tom Carey, District Attorney, Marvello the Magician, and The Face. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Of course, as I said, we'll be back here with more niche news tomorrow. Let's see now. Just trying to let it go a little longer here. And I know I've been doing a lot more cartoon stuff lately. You know how things go. News cycles, they have their ebbs and flows, right? Right now there's a bit more of an ebb in a lot of stuff, but of course we always, every now and again we still have the ever so big indie comic showcase to look at. So thank you, Chris Braley, for that. And with that, I thank you all for being here tonight, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.